Department officials at CENTCOM confirming the U.S. military used depleted uranium ammo in Syria. CENTCOM explained the military use of such weapons was appropriate for the targets in Syria and they were protecting U.S. interests. On Friday, the United Nations voted again to ban the use of depleted uranium in conflicts. CW6 contributor Kimberly Dvorak is here to explain what the U.S. was protecting in Syria and what the UN vote means for the war. What is going on over there? The war's using their uranium?
Yeah, well, it's depleted. It's something that 7 countries have access to. The United States and Britain have used this in Iraq. It seems that this was kind of unprecedented that this was used in Syria. However, it's worth pointing out, too, that on our Navy combatant ships sitting here in San Diego, they also have use of this, and they use them in Gatling guns. And what it does is it's armor-piercing munitions that will actually protect guys. So, like if you're on a ship, they can use it and bring down missiles that are coming on them. So it is in common use, and they're also phasing out the use of this DU, and they're going to a kinetic tungsten. That's what they told me. But I think the bigger question here is,
what are we doing in Syria?
What are we doing in Syria?
It's kind of what we call a proxy war over there right now. So many different factions.
In essence, and again, I mean, we have to trust our guys on the ground, and we know that for this particular instance, that we had special operators in forward operating positions, and they saw the threat. And they called it in, and they don't necessarily have control as to what the folks from the ships or the other bases are operating out of in the Middle East to send. So these guys are fighting very fierce battles. We saw what happened in Benghazi. So we have to side on the air with the military, them doing the right thing here. But the question is, back in 2003, the United States, all the people here in the U.S., we fought and said, look, we don't want to go to war in Syria. Stay out of Syria. So what is so important, and why are we going into Syria again? And I think that's the bigger question here. What U.S. interests are we protecting in Syria that Congress, again, not doing their job here and not getting the job of some sort of War Powers Act, because we're just operating blindly with no resolutions for war here.
Well, we know one thing is oil. We know that one thing that Russia has a port right there in Syria. And Russia's way up here.
Yeah. Well, it's also important to remember, too, that Russia also has the #2 supply of the depleted uranium. So it's not, I mean, let's not all put it on this. There have not been any reports that they have used this, but they do have the world's 2nd largest supply of the depleted uranium. Again, the U.S. is getting out of this business. The UN and human rights groups, they're saying that, look, what we're looking for is we want to go in and clean up. We want to make sure that civilians on the ground aren't going to get hurt and aren't going to be harmed by this chemical that can be get into drinking water and that. So everybody kind of has their point on this, and I think that it's encouraging that the U.S. is phasing this out. And like I said, the bigger question is, why isn't Congress doing anything, and why are we in Syria?
All righty, CW
Thank you.
contributor